high-powered attorney for me, but not for thee. The parents of the alleged school shooter in Oxford, Michigan, have hired Shannon Smith to represent them. Smith is the attorney who represented Olympic team doctor Larry Nassar, who was convicted of abusing young gymnasts. Meanwhile, James and Jennifer Crumbly's teenage son, Ethan, is being represented by a public defender. The 15-year-old is accused of killing 4 students and wounding 7 others at his high school on November 30th. He faces a total of 24 counts, including 4 counts of homicide and domestic terrorism. Well, here with us to explain more is Dr. Vermelle Greene. Dr. Greene is the executive of the Boys Initiative and author of the book, Please Teach Me Like I'm a Boy, 10 Steps to His Success in School and in Life. Dr. Greene, it's a pleasure talking with you. So it seems that the warning signs given by the accused shooter, Ethan Crumbly, were ignored. So where, in your opinion, did the school and his parents fail him and the students of Oxford High School?
Well, first of all, thank you, Gary, for having me. It's really a hard call, and you know how hindsight is always 20/20. As a former high school administrator, I can tell you that really administrators are their hands are tied in many respects. I understand that the young man was taken to the administrator's office. Now, at that point, had that been a student whose teacher had sent him because of some troubling drawings or his searching on the internet, I would have asked him some really pointed questions like, what do these mean? Do you have something, or is there something you need to tell us? And especially if he's carrying a book bag, I would say, do you have anything in your book bag? Many schools have what's called a process for risk assessment, where an administrator works with a psychologist, works with a counselor to ask certain pointed questions. You've made these drawings. Do you intend to hurt someone? Do you have a plan? Do you have a weapon? And those are the kind of questions that someone who has been trained in risk assessment would do. Apparently, that's not what happened at that school. I really feel for the administrators, because if they had asked the parents to take him home, if the parents refused and he really hadn't done what they consider to be a suspendable offense, and they refused, there wouldn't have been much that administrator could have done.
Well, maybe they could have called the police. And I want to talk to you about how boys, in particular, are struggling in public schools, especially in minority communities. But first, U.S. Surgeon General has just announced his concern for the devastating mental health effects of the pandemic and other challenges facing young people. He notes that depression, anxiety, suicide rates are increasing. And for girls, emergency room visits for attempted suicide are up 51%. For boys, they're up 4%. So how bad is it, in your opinion, and to what extent have shutdowns, isolation, and then returning to the classroom had on our kids?
Oh, it's had a devastating effect, especially upon our boys. Our boys, they talk about boys and men being very strong, but really, when it comes to their brains and their mental state, they can be very fragile. And the learning deficits that has happened over the course of the pandemic has really hit our boys even more so than our girls, especially our boys of color, especially our Black boys. Our Black boys have already been at the top of suspension rates and at the bottom of test scores, and the pandemic just exacerbated those problems. I would love to see schools, and I think schools are coming to that point where they are instituting some social emotional strategies to address some of the trauma that these children have gone through. But it's a definite problem. It is a definite problem. And if I could just one more time go back to that incident in Michigan, I really wish that those administrators had established an environment in their school where students are told, if you see something, say something. Because it's my understanding that some students knew what was being planned, what could happen, but instead of informing their own parents or instead of notifying the school, they just stayed home. So that is so much an important part of the school atmosphere is accepting or establishing an atmosphere of trust and mutual caring between the administration and the students.
Okay, we're out of time, but thank you for the insights. The book is Please Teach Me Like I'm a Boy, 10 Steps to His Success in School and in Life. Dr. Vermelle Greene, thank you for sharing your time and insights.
Thank you, Gary, again for having me.